Oh, what a twisted web we weave here in Hawkeye Nation as the Iowa men lose again, this time at Northwestern, and once again by double figures, a 68-57 loss to the Northwestern Wildcats, a team that heading into tonight was identical in record, conference record, to the Hawks at 6-11. They, of course, Iowa's dealt with some injuries. I know injuries have been a story for this Hawkeye squad throughout much of conference play. The Wildcats, if there's anybody in this conference that has dealt with more as it relates to injury impact, it is Northwestern. But boy, those guys keep fighting. They've won 3 straight and are in a position, as it was brought up during the FS1 broadcast, that if they win these last 2 games, they got 2 quad 1 opportunities against UCLA and Maryland. They may make the tournament because they've got a plethora of quad 1 wins. What a difference between 2 teams that entered tonight with the exact same conference and regular season record. But one team has no quad 1 wins. Another team has a plethora of quad 1 wins. Both teams racked with injuries. Neither team athletic. I believe one team is just better, and one team is being coached better right now. And I don't want to overstate what we saw tonight, but I have a lot of respect for Chris Collins, as people watch this show know. But we'll talk about it here over the next 45 minutes or so. I cannot promise a late postgame show tonight, folks, because I don't know really what else we're supposed to talk about. We don't have Gary on tonight. Like, I feel like we're just kind of having the same conversation every single night now. Like, it's the same conversation every single night. And the offense seems to be getting worse. They've now averaged, over their last 2 road games, they've averaged 59 points in those 2 road games. So this is a team that has been bad defensively all year. And over these last 2 games, they've averaged 59 points. So explain that. I can't. Other than, I think there's got to be a mental aspect here. Peyton Sandfort's been unbelievably bad these last 2 games, and I've been critical of him all year. But when I say unbelievably bad, we're going to look at the stats here in a second. It's incredible. Josh Dix had an off night. There's really nobody that played exceptionally well. Let's get into our RTI Threads player of the game, and this can be debated because, boy, LaFonso Ellis likes himself some Brock Harding. But Drew Thelwell is our RTI Threads player of the game at 14 points, 5 of 7 from the field. I can't ignore 4 of 4 from 3 assists. And this was a hard one because I watched this game, and I'm watching Brock Harding as the backup point guard come in, and he was effective getting guys open shots. And I'll just admit, as a non-coach, this is why people like Coach Close, who's not with us this evening, he had another engagement. Having people like Coach Close here is so valuable because as I'm watching this in live game action, it would be very easy for me to say either, well, A, Brock Harding was phenomenal tonight, or B, he was really good against a team that's not athletic and didn't do a good job defending him. But I'm not going to take either stance because I don't know without at a minimum going back and watching the tape again. There were a lot of open looks off of Brock Harding feeds and a number of misses. He finished the day, as you'll see on the bottom of your screen, and Brock Harding finished the day with 4 points, 2 of 7 from the field, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 turnover. Hey, you'll take 7 to 1 assist to turnover ratio any day of the week. The problem is they still only scored 57 points and lost by double figures. And I got a lot of respect for LaFonso Ellis. But, man, it was a slop fest. It was a slop fest for Brock Harding. And here's what I'll say. And I know I took some heat on this the other day for being really strong in my verbiage about how I feel Brock Harding fits in or doesn't fit into this program, to this conference. And Gary Close, for the record, came on this very show and said, I think he is a Big Ten point guard. I think tonight was simply a good matchup for a guy who is going to struggle most nights in this conference. I think Northwestern is a program inherently that he's going to be able to perform most nights at a pretty good to very good level because there's really nobody like I watch him, especially in the defensive end. We always talk about his size, lack thereof, his problems with staying in front of quick, physical offensive players, drivers. That still exists, but there was nobody in this game that really took him physically. And I do think that I think we've seen a little bit of the chink in the mental armor of Brock Harding. Now, that's up for debate. We can go back and look at the tape, I guess, when the season's over. But to me, it feels like he's played worse on the offensive end when he's gotten pushed around and abused on the defensive end. And Northwestern really didn't do that other than a couple of times. And again, it wasn't necessarily him getting physically taken. There was one play where what's-his-face that had a career day or a season-best day crossed him over and hit a big three. But I think in general, these are the games where he's going to shine and be able to give you 7 assists to 1 turnover type of nights. But against the more athletic backcourts, the Marylands of the world, the Michigan States, going to be really fascinating to see how he plays back at home next Thursday because the numbers from the last 2 games are very good, actually. And it's going to be interesting to see how that changes against a much more physical team in Michigan State at home. My prediction, early prediction, I'll put this out there. Brock Harding really struggles next Thursday against Michigan State. You can call me a Brock Harding hater if you want, but I think we're going to see the result of matchups. And I think he's going to be very matchup dependent for as long as he plays in this conference, in part due to his size and in part due to his other struggles. I think everything comes back to his size ultimately, but he's also he's not a natural defender. So that doesn't help when you're not a natural defender. I'm trying to think of examples of guys. Obviously you want to look at extremes of short, small guys that made it in the league that were really physical and good. Nate Robinson, Spud Webb, Muggsy Bogues. I mean, go down to Tyrone. You can go down the list. Those guys obviously were exceptional athletes, like exceptional athletes. Brock Harding is not that. Now, can Brock Harding survive at this level in the Big Ten? Gary Close thinks so. I still question it. But it just rubbed me the wrong way when I heard LaFonso Ellis this evening make some statement about how Drew Thelwell's not a natural point guard, Brock Harding is. I guess what he means by that is that Brock Harding is the natural facilitator, but he just doesn't have the scoring and the shooting ability that Drew Thelwell does. Because either that or LaFonso Ellis just hasn't watched Iowa basketball all year and knows nothing about what Drew Thelwell has done over the course of his, 4-year career, 5-year career, whatever it's been. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way hearing that. But I have no problem with a guy heaping praise on a young man who's gotten criticism in Brock Harding. But, our RTI Thread player of the game, I don't know how to go away from Drew Thelwell. I think he's still one of their 2 best players. And he's not 100%. And I still think he's one of their 2 best players right there with Josh Dix. Peyton Sandfort has been really, really bad the last 2 games. He's 3 of 13, 0 for 4 from 3 tonight, 9 points, 3 assists. And you want a guy he's a couple games away from the end of his career. These next 2 games, this is the game against Michigan State, maybe the final game he plays in Carver. In fact, it's almost assuredly will be because they're not going to make postseason play. Even if they make the Big Ten tournament, it's very unlikely they even make the NIT or whatever the new formatted tournament is for the Big Ten Conference. So anyways, I know I'm going on a tangent. Folks, if you are here and you appreciate the coverage, even though it can be monotonous at times after losses, be sure you check out and support our sponsors, one being RTI Threads. Of course, they have official merchandise for guys like Owen Freeman, Peyton Sandfort, Josh Dix, and some of that Josh Dix logo is on point. Check it out, rtithreads.com/NIL, rtithreads.com/NIL. And of course, support Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm by giving them a call and asking for a free quote on insurance, auto, homeowners, life, and more. 515-256-6480, or you can visit Brad online, bradvanmeter.com. That's Brad Van Meter, 515-256-6480, or online at bradvanmeter.com. Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm in Des Moines. All right, let's go back to the game this evening, and we'll take our first call of the night. We've got Matt here. Matt, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. You hear me okay?
We got you loud and clear. I love the sweatshirt. That is, I think there's going to be a lot of fans, and they see that. They're going to be like, where on earth do you get one of those? That's pretty cool with the retro.
I think it got at Shields, if I remember right.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, no, I've never done this before, but tonight's game kind of made me feel like I wanted to, just so I can vent a little bit.
Okay, vent away. You've already heard me vent, Matt.
Yeah, no, I've really been a Fran Honk all this time. I think he's a great coach. One thing that obviously always bothered me, though, was the defense. He just hasn't addressed it this whole time over the years. And I feel like there's been a missed opportunity really on his part, where you have teams that, hire assistant coaches that specialize, like defensive specialists, that like Michigan did, I think with Beeline. I feel like Beeline hired a assistant coach that just specialized on defense, and it really turned a corner for them.
Went to a Final Four, did they not? Or national championship?
Yeah, and I feel like he's a great offensive coach, but he missed the opportunity in finding someone with that niche to help them.
I can agree. I can agree completely.
Just to have 3 wide open layups to give up to nerds. I was texting a buddy from high school, and it just drove us nuts. Like, what would Bob Knight say? I just can't. I feel like this is the end of.
Well, I listen. I have here's what I equated it to during the game, Matt, and hopefully this will. I don't know how much of an Iowa football fan you are. My guess is that you're an Iowa football fan.
Yeah.
So I'll equate this to something very simple. I went to, it's 2 years ago, wife and I always try to make it to at least one road game every year. And we went to Iowa-Purdue a couple years ago in West Lafayette. That was the game where Caleb Johnson broke out. This is really his first big performance of his Hawkeye career. And you'll recall Iowa won that game. It was a windy day in West Lafayette. But I found myself, we had driven how long to get to West Lafayette? I found myself not rooting against Iowa, but I found myself very indifferent watching that game that day. And it was for one reason and one reason only. I felt, as the inner fan in me, completely lacking objectivity as a fan at heart, I found myself thinking, if this team doesn't lose, I don't know if there will be enough to make a change. And if there's not a change made, I feel that the status quo is just going to continue. And I know a lot of Iowa basketball fans who are in the exact same place right now that Iowa football fans were with Brian Ferentz at the helm on the offense. And we'll see with the new Tim Lester regime. We've seen 1 year so far, so good with improvement. But regardless, it was that change that fans were waiting for. And I feel like Fran missed the opportunity, as you outlined just a second ago, to hire somebody during one of these open window periods. He's had assistants leave. He's had opportunities to bring other guys in. He's brought in guys he's comfortable with, that he likes, that he's worked with, that he wants to help out, and that's fine. And I think Tristan Spurlock's proven he's a really good recruiter. People like him. Courtney Elder's really good recruiter. People like him. People know I'm the biggest Matt Gatens fan out there, but that doesn't mean those were the right hires for this job in this moment. Fran's going to do what he wants as long as he's the head coach. But I believe he signed his own firing. Now, unfortunately, the way that college basketball works and college athletics work, somebody texted me right before this show went live and said, can they fire him with cause? They're not going to fire. They can't fire him with cause. The way this works, they can't say, well, you didn't make this is not how it works, folks. You can't say, well, a guy didn't meet our expectations. A guy didn't take the team to the Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament, so we're firing with cause. That's not how that works. It's going to be a firing without cause, which means you're going to owe him a big buyout unless he retires. And I don't think that will happen. But I do think we're in line for a change. And I can tell you the inner fan in me, Matt, is to the point I was at 2 years ago with the Iowa offense, where I don't even really care about the results as I watch these games anymore. And I've been the biggest Iowa basketball fan out there since I was a wee little lad. I don't really care. I didn't care. As there's 4 minutes left in the game and they're back within single digits. I'm like, who cares? First of all, I know they're going to lose. This sounds like, see, now I'm kind of going off on my soapbox. I know they're going to lose in this situation because I've seen them cut the lead to a single digits and then flounder defensively time and time and time again. And if they won tonight, what would it have done? It would have kept life alive to maybe get to the 15 seed or the 14 seed in the Big Ten tournament and squeak into Indy, only to lose in the first round anyways. That's where I'm at as a fan. Is it frustration? Yes. But I think I'm echoing the feelings of a lot of people out there right now.
Yes.
Did I hit the nail on the head?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, it's just too bad because I think, coming off a lick lighter, right? For a long time, I felt really a deep sense of appreciation for what he did bring to the table because it's an exciting brand of basketball. They move the ball on offense. If you're a player, you would want to play in that system. For the most part, it's just defensively the breakdowns that they have on defense. It's been years and years of the same stuff.
It's like clockwork.
Yeah.
And Northwestern didn't even score that many points tonight. Like I say, I don't know that you can look and say the reason they lost was defense. They scored 68, but they were also down two of their starters, one of which was one of their better scorers. Now I give them credit. Chris Collins has got that team fighting, and that's one of the reasons, Matt. And you may not agree with this, but if I was looking for a head coach in the offseason, I am calling Chris Collins. I am.
They thought that exact thing tonight. Just seeing how they play defense and they're invested. He's got recruiting challenges just being at Northwestern.
Yes, he does.
And so, he's got a competitive team, and so just I would be interested in what he could bring to the table. I mean, I think he's got. I'm not saying he's got some personal connection to Iowa, but he does have a connection to Iowa. Right? Yeah. He's got a connection. He's recruited by Iowa.
he has. I think he's got an emotional connection because there was a connection with Chris Street. So I do think, from that perspective, there's no reason not to call him.
It'd be intriguing, probably worth a call. I don't know that would excite the fan base so much. I think
What would excite the fan base? What would excite the fan base?
Bruce Pearl.
He's not coming. He ain't coming.
I know. I'm not saying that like that's just a pipe dream, but
yeah. I think. Hey, here's what I'll say, Matt. One guy that's been brought up several times, and that may be a pipe dream, but here's somebody that would excite fans. It'd be B.J. Armstrong. Now that would be a big swing. It would be swinging on a guy who's not really had any coaching experience, but it would excite people. It would get people engaged, and it would sell tickets. I guarantee you he'd be able to recruit. Now, would he be able to finish the deal and coach and actually win here? Who knows? The Juwan Howard experiment did not work at Michigan, and he's considered to be one of the greatest Michigan players, certainly one of the greatest Michigan teams of all time.
Well, one thing I would say, like maybe on that side of it, is he is coach on the floor. I mean, being a point guard, even with the Bulls, I mean, he controlled the floor. At least he wouldn't have any coaching experience, but if he's surrounded by a good coaching staff,
and I'll say this. Can I say one other thing, Matt? Frankly, if BJ was interested, I'd be in, because you got to interview multiple people. So I'd be interviewing. My short list would involve Chris Collins, it would involve Darian DeVries, and it would involve BJ Armstrong. I'd start with those three guys. All right, I know the Drake guy's a hot name right there.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit. I don't think he's in my top three right now.
No,
a hotter name.
I've heard good things about him, but I don't know that he's going to fill the arena, and that's part of the problem. Is right now when you're actually only getting 5,000 people to the game, that's a real problem. You need someone that's going to sell it out.
They got to win, right? They got to win in order to keep like BJ's not just going to get hired and all of a sudden they're selling the arena out. I can guarantee you that. Somebody's got to start winning there consistently. So I don't know that I necessarily.
That's true, but you got to have someone that's going to create some excitement, that's going to entice people to buy in. Because I think part of the problem is, like, we've been winning historically with Fran, but as it got stale where people quit buying in and investing into the product. And just like with NIL, how much money is going to Iowa basketball for NIL? Not much. I mean,
not a percentage of what football's driving, and football is always going to be king. But
right,
yeah, I don't know the exact figures. I don't think it's certainly not. I don't believe it's top half of the conference. I know there have been numbers tossed around out there that are unofficial, but certainly not top half of the conference.
No, but they're working at a disadvantage there, and part of that issue is that, the excitement's really lacked.
Yeah. And Fran, in my opinion, I'm not saying everything is his fault. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying everything's Fran McCaffrey's fault, because some people will come on here and, rip me for that. But he has not, in my opinion, Fran has not done a good enough job advocating for fan support. He has not, in my opinion. So if you're just winning games, and like when he was making the tournament, although there were people that were upset they weren't making it the second weekend, that's enough. That's enough at Iowa. If you're making the tournament every year, that's enough. This has all changed because this is going to be the second straight year where they don't make the tournament. This is what it comes down to. They're not making the tournament. It would have taken a while. If they had made last year's tournament, or even if they jumped back into the tournament play this year, Matt, I don't believe he'd be on the hot seat whatsoever. There'd be fans wanting him gone, but realistically, his job would be safe because that's the expectation. I don't think you would see a repeat of what we saw with Coach Dr. Tom. And the bottom line is, Fran has, not, in my opinion, has not done enough with advocating for students to be there. He may say it's not his job. He's got other things to worry about. The students, the fans and the students have an obligation. I don't know that he's ever said that publicly, but to me, that's the aura that I get when I listen to Fran talk. It's that all he's concerned about is coaching and recruiting and the rest will fall into place. And that's true to some extent, but the times have changed so much, Matt. Not just with NIL and with the transfer portal, but you have to give students and fans reasons to be at the game. And if you're not winning, it's going to make it really hard. But I would at least respect an all-out effort off the court with fan engagement, with some sort of team representation to the public. I don't know what it looks like, but I just very rarely see Fran engage with the fan base like I saw Jan Jensen engage with her fan base, like I see Lisa Bluter engage with her fan base. I know it's easier for Kirk Ferentz, so maybe that's a bad example. But that's part of my problem right now. I just don't see forward thinking from Fran McCaffery, not just with his defensive problems, but also with how he's attacking the other problems like attendance. I don't see it personally.
Yeah. No, I can't disagree with anything you're saying.
Well, I appreciate your take, Matt, and enjoyed your call. Please call again. It was good to have you.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one.
You too. Good stuff. I know people are frustrated. Let's add. We've got several people here waiting on hold. We got Doug, we got Trevor, Tom, Darrell. We got Doug first, who is in here bright and early. Doug, I'm being pretty hard on this program right now. I know I'm being hard on people, players, coaches.
No.
Tell me where I'm wrong on this.
You're not.
Okay.
I disagree with absolutely nothing. Maybe this should be the first call I ever had with you. But I disagree with you on about absolutely nothing.
Okay.
But I will say.
You agree with my top three. You agree with my top three if they were on. Beth was calling people today. And by the way,
yes.
I have no problem. I hope Beth is calling people today.
Yes.
Honestly,
Me too.
Doug, shouldn't she?
Yeah. This is one of the things, and this will be my hot take. Either there'll be 2,000 people at Carver on Thursday, or there'll be 14,000. Either she announces the firing before the game, or she doesn't. Because I said once he doesn't make the Big Ten tournament, right now they lose all tiebreakers to every team above them, and they are in 15th place.
But they're not out of it yet. They're not out of it yet.
They have to win a game.
Eliminated. If they win,
they're not eliminated yet. No.
If they win,
not eliminated yet.
They're not going to win out. First of all, I don't think they're.
I don't think they'll win either game.
They'll win either game. I don't think they're going to win either game because I think Nebraska's better.
That means they finish the season 13-3. Go ahead.
I know. I was just going to say we're going to put our caller on the phone line on hold, but just for the record, I don't think Iowa can beat Nebraska on the road, and I don't think they stand a chance at home against Michigan State. And they played substantially better at home against Michigan State, but I think it's a bad matchup.
Yeah, this means that they finished the season losing 13 out of their last 16 games, which is not acceptable at any program.
I didn't realize that. That's a bad number, Doug.
Exactly.
Doug. I did not.
That's where they're at. That's the trend they're going. They'll lose 13 out of the last 16 games. How he can survive that, I have no idea. This is somebody made fun of me on the live chat, but people probably already making fun of me on the live chat. I'm supposed to be enjoying my vacation. Instead, I'm like hoping Beth does the right thing.
Do you really believe that she's going to fire him before we're literally like a week away from the season being over? Do you really think that she's going to do that?
I don't know anything about her. I don't know what type of AD she is. I don't know.
She's going to make the evaluation at the end of the year. And by the way, I don't think Fran, honestly, this is such a hard situation, Doug.
Well, do we pack Carver for Fran on Thursday, or do we not pack? I don't want to go to the game on Thursday. We were talking about we're coming home from this vacation. It's just like I've lost hope that they could do anything.
Okay, well, you and I both know people aren't going to that game. No,
yep.
Just saying, in general, people are not going to that game.
Yep.
They don't care.
Yep.
They don't care,
exactly.
Doug. They just don't care. So, here's what I'll say.
Well,
I don't think here's my guess. I don't think Fran. I don't have no inside information on the Fran situation. There are people who have told me, not anybody that I would call a reliable source, but there are people that have told me, hey, Fran's had a medical issue that has prevented him from getting upset. He's told he cannot get upset anymore. I've also been told by other people, well, it's an administrative thing, and they basically told him he can't continue to lose his mind.
They're both probably true.
They could both be true. I don't know. There's the other theories out there that, well, he's checked out and he just doesn't care. I don't know which one is true.
Well, he's a competitor.
I think, well, he is a competitor, but I think they all end in the same place.
Yep.
I think they all end in the same place. I think he ends the season, and I think that's it, whether it's because he walks away or Beth makes him walk away. And I think he knows that. I don't think he's got decisions to make here, Doug.
No.
I think he knows what he's going to, either he's going to dig his heels in and make Beth fire him, or he's going to walk away. I don't think there's a path forward at this point, barring some miracle where they win out, make the Big Ten tournament, and win the Big Ten tournament to get to the big dance. It'd be the next Glory Road VHS tape type of story.
This is sad. This is sad because when they were trying to get Lick out, they were trying to say, well, he has health issues because he was in the hospital his last year here. I don't know if you remember that. Lickler went to the hospital. Yeah, Lickler went to the hospital, and they're like, well, he's going to resign for health reasons. And he goes, I'm not resigning for health. If you brought that up to Fran, he's not the type of guy who will go, yeah, I'm just, my health. Unless the doctor really did say you're going to die on the sideline. He's not leaving the sideline, But I don't have hope for a future with Fran McCaffrey anymore. And that probably makes me a hypocrite because just a year ago you were like, Doug, you're the person. And I just thought this team could maybe make the NCAA tournament. And like you said, that maybe buys them another year. But again, at some point his contract runs out in 28. Either there's not is saving $2, $3, $4 million really worth it to even get further? I mean,
can't extend him. Like there's no way you can extend him, but they have to extend him. That's the other part about why the timing works out. Everything with his, in my opinion, everything from a personal standpoint that I know of with Fran works to where this is time. The fact that they've missed on 2 straight NCAA tournaments tells me it's time. The fact that what you just said goes to 28, they got to extend him. I would think at a minimum by the end of 25. I don't know what the path forward is.
The path forward is if you want to have anything with the basketball program going forward, you need new blood in there, and I mean, I hope people watch everything because I'm fair. You watched me from last year to now. I said he would earn getting fired. He has earned getting fired. He has lost enough games. 3-13 down the stretch is bad. This team is worse in February 28th or whatever than they were on November 1st. This team is a worse team. I'm sorry. I miss Mac and Larry. I never knew a homer could come from Alfonso Ellis. Man, the amount he was talking about Brock Harding, the guy should have been making the difference in that game. My dad was like, this dude's in love with Brock Harding.
What did you think about that?
Weird.
Did you almost think you almost thought maybe it was a Harding family member slipped him a 50 time or something?
That's what we said. My daddy said his parents paid him off. It was weird. I'm like, why is he boasting about Brock Harding this much?
You know what? Here's what I think. Honestly, for a guy like Alfonso Ellis, who's not a Big Ten guy, he's covering the sport. I think it's just a guy who doesn't watch enough games. And so he's
exactly what it is.
And Brock played pretty well during that time as it relates to finding guys and whatnot. But again, as a non-coach, it's hard for me to say it was because of this or because of this. But I just know that the sample size as a whole is Drew Thelwell has been substantially better all year when he's been healthy. And that's why he took over the starting role midway through the year. He should have been taken over at the beginning of the year.
It says something about when it took Drew that long because Drew – it says something about their system, and I don't even know. Their offense looks so bad now, and both just missing shots and can't hit a 3, and their rotation and the motion offense is stagnant. They don't move. A motion offense is supposed to move, and too often it is a ball screen. Brock dribbles way too long into the lane and then tries to find somebody. That's not an offense. That's not. I mean, even a 3rd grade coach would know that's not an offense, but. Again,
hey, look, Carter's comment in the chat. The announcer thinks Brock is the next Allen Iverson, and I just want to be clear. I don't have anything against Brock Harding.
No,
but I've said it before. I question whether he's a Big Ten conference point guard. I certainly don't think he's a Big Ten starting point guard. And let me say something else. I mean, Peyton Sandfort. Everything I've heard, I've said this before. Great kid, great person. Great leader, wants it more than anybody else. He is not an NBA player. He is not cut out to be the star of a Big Ten team. He's just not. And that's more on Fran than it is on Peyton, because this was the team that Fran built. And yes, I know Owen Freeman's been out, but Peyton was the guy we heard about heading into the year, how he tested the NBA combine. He was going to be on a two-way. Yeah, he could have been on two-way. Guess what? If he was in a two-way, he would never set foot in the league. Just telling you.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of. I agree with you too much, Cory, and that's the reason why I join your podcast. I agree with you a lot. Maybe I should find a podcast where I argue with people, but then I always feel bad. But I got people in live chat I could probably argue with. But this goes to the other people. But my last question is, on March, let's say 15th, what's the percentage chance that Fran McCaffrey has been let go from Iowa?
Okay, well, let's just. I want to know timing of this. So March 15th.
I'm just trying
to figure out. So
the week after the Big Ten tournament.
Week after Big Ten tournament. Yeah, I think that's it, right? That's right about when I expect a decision. I think not a decision, because like I say, I think things are either Fran's decided it. I know I said Beth's going to evaluate things at the end of the year. I think ultimately, in layman's terms, that just means she's going to announce her decision at year's end. I think the decision is happening as the season's transpired, and I think it's likely it's already occurred. I'll say it's pretty close to that. March 15th, we're going to know how Fran is leaving, whether he's leaving on his own accord or he's being let go or what.
And again, I'm not on the live chat, and I don't know if James is in the queue, or maybe someone that's more knowledgeable about the contract. They can do that buyout over time, or is it? Or I wouldn't think they have to do a lump sum.
Hey, I don't. What is the buyout? I don't even know what the buyout is.
I've heard anything for 4 to 7. That's another thing. I don't know, because I read stuff both by both the 247 guys and Tom that have had, or a couple different websites that have had 4 million and one said 7 million, and I've had most of them say 6.5. This is buyout, so I'm guessing 6.5.
Well, if it's 6.5, that's big. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the buyouts across the country are, but that sounds like a lot of money given the fact that they paid Chris Doyle $1 million to leave.
Yeah.
And I think he was the highest paid strength coach in the conference. So obviously this is a head men's basketball coach. He's got several years left on his contract. I still can't imagine that is, if there's potential for support, which we know there is for this program, I don't know that can possibly prove to be a barrier. I think it's just one of those things. The term bite comes to mind. You just have to bite the bullet, and I think they will. If they have
Iowa State came up with, I think, 11 or 12 million to go from Prom to TJ. So, but again, I sure hope that his buyout is not to hold them up, because when I was really depressed when Matt first started talking to you, your first caller, and then I started getting happy when you're talking about coaching change. And I don't really care. I have a dozen coaches I'd be happy with, and a dozen guys that I think could bring new life to the program. And, that's what I want, is hope. And right now I don't have hope that these guys will get better from this year to next year. All 5 years, they showed the trend. They're getting worse over the last 5 years. Every team has gotten worse.
Let's real quick. Let me just think about this. This team. So you lose Peyton Sanford. You're going to lose Drew Thelwell. Josh Dix gets one more year. And by the way, Josh Dix would be a phenomenal contributor to so many Big Ten Power 4 teams.
Kansas S up their transfers,
Drew Thelwell is I believe he's one of their 2 best players when he's healthy. Those 2 guys I admire so much, and I feel bad. I feel so bad for those 2 guys. Not that I don't feel bad for other people, but from a player point of view, those 2 guys to me work their tails off on both ends. They make smart decisions. They play under control. And I still think Josh Dix might play in the league someday. I really do. I think he didn't play well tonight. But
my Jeff Hornacek comparison is not that far off. People go watch old Jeff Hornacek, playing for like Utah. He has a lot of the same similarities. If he can do it, Josh can do it. I'm just so sad for Peyton, and I don't know what's going on there. But again, I want to see him have a good senior night. I don't think there's a chance they beat Michigan State. I will not put money on even them covering the spread against Michigan State because Michigan State is really doing well this year, and that might be my sleep horse for a Final Four team. But again, a lot of you know I'm not very bright. But the self-deprecating humor helps.
I think we can all agree one thing we can all unite upon, and this is going to be a sentiment every single Iowa fan should be on board with. It really sucks to have the second straight year where we're watching the big dance and there's no Hawkeye team in the field. The bottom line is there's no longer, you cannot just be okay with that. There's just no way you can be okay with it.
Yeah.
So that's why I come back to what you said at the beginning of your call. You said it last year. I said it last year. They got to make the Big Ten or the big dance this year. They're not making the big dance this year. To me, the decision is
make the Big Ten tournament.
It's just how it happens. I just don't know how it'll happen yet.
Well, again, I right now I just don't have any hope that Fran can do anything. I don't even see the players wanting to develop. I don't even see them playing for next year. They're not even trying to develop guys, and they're making worse mistakes. If you were developing players, you'd be doing what Coach Collins did at Northwestern right now. You'd be coaching them up. They're dealing with a lot of the same things that we're dealing with, and it's just like our players are not getting better even during the season. This is a worse team on February 28th than it was on November 1st. And that's not good. Outside of Evan Bronze, I don't think anyone's playing better than what they did at the beginning of the season. And that's, sad. All right. Thank you, guys. Try to be positive. Sorry for any negativity. It is what it is.
Thank you, Doug. All right. I see lots of comments here in the chat. We got Kyle here who was good enough to host our last show. So appreciate you doing that, Kyle, and appreciate you being here. He says if they clean out the whole staff and start over, I will get on here with Cory for a 2-hour Hawkeye hangout show to celebrate. I don't know that I can come on. Listen, I believe Fran's done. I believe he's earned his way to being done. I do have a level of admiration and respect for Fran McCaffery because I do admire what he did when Todd Licklider was at the helm and that transition took place. I miss fiery Fran. I don't miss out of control, irate FranCon Fran. But I do miss fiery Fran. I'll admit that here at the outset. I do think his players love him. I believe deep down he's a very good person. I believe he cares about the community. I think he cares about his kids. I think he cares about his players. But I stand by what I have said. He's not doing enough right now. He's lost the fire for whatever reason. At least it appears on the outside, and it's reflected in performance. And then I don't believe he's done enough. And maybe he wouldn't have been able to do enough anyways. But I have not seen nearly enough effort to not necessarily fundraise, but to advocate and to plead with fans and students. And, I don't know that that's you may say, well, only a fool begs for support, but sometimes you got to beg for support. Times have changed. And if your team's not making March success, not making noise in the tournament, or in these last 2 years, not making the tournament, you better be doing everything you can to appeal to the big money people, the average fan, and the student population. And I don't know how Fran is doing any of that. He's talked about being favorable to moving the students and getting them more involved with seat placement, etc. And some of that's out of his control. I understand that. But I've struggled because I've gone back and forth with Fran's demeanor and some of the things. It's just, I guess we could talk about some of these things on another show and some of my, I don't want to say they're insider takes, but some of the things that I've just been rubbed the wrong way at times this season, and it's frustrated me. But at the same time, it's like, hey, he's here to coach and win. And up until this past year, he'd won enough, and he's no longer winning enough. And so when you're not winning enough, all the other things that have always been a problem, but have not been as big enough of too big of a problem, now start rearing their ugly heads and become more of a problem. That makes sense. So anyways, let's go back to our phone line. We've got Trevor here to weigh in on the situation. Trevor, welcome to the show, sir. Trevor, you're muted, but we got you on the screen if you can get yourself unmuted. Still says you're muted. While you try to get yourself unmuted, Trevor, Slade Wilson says BJ is done with hoops. Well, I don't know what that means other than he still works in professional basketball. He also was quoted on a recent Hawkeye radio broadcast, basically stating that he would be open to coaching somewhere someday. So there is that. Let's see if we got Trevor here. Trevor, are you with us?
Yep, you got me now?
I got you loud and clear, sir.
All right, awesome, thanks. My main thing is just I kind of agree with what everything that the other two callers said, but the one thing Fran could be doing is adjusting the lineup a little bit. If he wants to get some guys involved like Evan Braun, Ryan Mulvey, I don't know how much Dembele is going to contribute in the future, and I think if you just give some guys more of a shot off the bench, at least that's something to look forward to in the future, and maybe it'll keep some guys from transferring. I know we have so many transfers in this landscape with college basketball. I'm just hoping that the players we do have that can contribute don't transfer out.
Are you saying that, Trevor, under the assumption that there's a possibility Fran sticks around? Or are you saying you play
really
guy?
Either. If Fran's there, I think we're going to end up with the same general team that we've had the last 2-3 years. But even with the new coach coming in, you can't. I don't think we're going to be able to restock the entire roster. So,
you tell me. The question was raised earlier in the chat, Trevor, and I want to ask you because you're a Hawkeye fan. Who would you want to retain? Who do you think would be worthwhile to retain heading into a new transition year? Assuming it's any of the guys we talked about or someone else. I know style is maybe a factor there, but who would you want to retain who has eligibility left on the current roster if Fran's not here?
Dixon Freeman for sure, but beyond that, I don't know if any of these guys have any potential because they haven't played enough. It's like the Evan Braun and Mulvey, for example. I know they're on the court, but they're not really. They haven't really gotten plays for him or anything like that.
The problem is Bronze is out of eligibility.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah.
Mulvey has one more year left if he wants it because he redshirted. I don't know that he's a guy I would be using a roster spot up for a new coach. And I simply say that because he's got 1 year left. I don't know how high his ceiling is. You're right. Maybe he could be playing a little bit more. I know he's had some health issues. He does have length. He's not a great athlete. I agree with you on Dix, even though he's got 1 year left. I agree with you on Freeman, although I don't know if Fran leaves, I think Freeman's gone, and I think they lose most of this roster. Peyton's already gone, right? We know that. Yeah. So Peyton's gone. I could see Price sticking around. We're just kind of speculating at this point, but yeah, I think the big one would be Josh Dix. Could you build a team in 2025 around Josh Dix? I think that's going to, and Thelwell's gone as well. And then, yeah, Dembele, what do you do with him? What do you do with, Traore? I like his potential. I like his ceiling. I like his athleticism. To me, he doesn't look real well coached. He doesn't look disciplined. But I've never said that up until recently about a Fran guy. When they got him from Manhattan, I thought, here's a guy Fran's going to love because he's going to give them something they don't already have, and being a dominant rebounder. He's going to give them great athleticism. So I don't know if that's more on Fran or on Seydu, but that relationship is not – I know he's starting because of injury, but that relationship has not worked. His minutes dwindle, especially as you go deep into the second half of games. So, yeah, Dix would probably be my number one if you could get Owen Freeman, but I don't think you're going to be able to retain him. And then probably Seydu. And honestly, I don't know who I'd pick after that. I think they're going to have to really work, as any new coach is going to have to at this level, work the transfer portal effectively to have a good year in 25.
Yeah, I agree. I think they definitely need an experienced coach. I don't want a first-time head coach or even really a small program guy. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a big deal.
I would not want BJ Armstrong then.
I do like the idea just from an excitement standpoint, but just get somebody, that can, that's built programs before, and then just hopefully, you're going to kind of have to build a roster out of nothing. So somebody that kind of knows what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, I think you do have to like long shot, but the Bruce Pearls, Chris Collins, I think you got to make them tell you no. I mean, they're probably going to tell you no, but I think you got to at least ask them. A guy like Shaka Smart would be interesting.
That would be, I think, a riskier hire, but he's also a big name, and isn't he at Texas still? Where's Shaka Smart?
Marquette. They ran him out of Texas.
He's at Marquette. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a little bit of a sideways move with Marquette because Marquette's pretty good, but
I think Chris Collins is much more a reasonable get than Bruce Pearl. I don't know why Bruce Pearl would come back to Iowa. I don't know, man. I'm not saying it's not worth a call, but I think
he's almost certainly going to say no. But I mean, it's at this point you got to kind of throw some Hail Marys in there because we don't have much going.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm fine with that, and I still say Collins, BJ, and by the way, I saw Kyle in the chat say, "Hey, get rid of everybody." I'd be like, if Matt Gatens wants to stick around, and someone like BJ Armstrong or Chris Collins is willing to keep him, I think I'm sure I'm biased because I've known Matt. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good coach. Love his backstory. Maybe I'm too, I'm not objective enough when it comes to the Gatens family, but I do think that he's a guy that I would be fine with retaining because I think maybe he's a future head coach here someday. Now, there's also benefit in a guy like that who's a homegrown body to go somewhere else and learn his way there, like he did at Drake and like he did at Auburn for a while, and then come back someday. So, but I don't know that you have to clean house from a perspective of fire everybody on the staff. Most of these guys are going to leave anyways. Courtney Eldridge is a Fran guy. Tristan Spurlock's a Fran guy. Sherm Dillard's a Fran guy. Now, Matt's a Fran guy, sort of, but he's an Iowa guy. So, yeah, good stuff. And like I say, I think we're going to have these conversations about specific names very soon. This is going to move fast once we get into the month of March.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things. We've seen the same team for 5 years, and it's just gotten worse year after year. So I don't think you really have a choice other than to make a move. I like Fran too, but it's not making any progress. I can't see any argument to keep him because there's probably 15 guys on the market that are objectively better. So I don't know what value would be in keeping him.
Yep, and he's not getting any younger either. That's the other facet of this. So, Trevor, appreciate you calling in, sir.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Boy, a lot of good calls this evening. John, who do you want back next year? I think I answered that question. I guess the short answer to that question, I don't know. I want Josh Dix back. I know he's got 1 year left. Do I want Owen Freeman back? Yeah, he's got to develop though. To me, his offensive game, and Coach Close has talked about this, his offensive game did not take the jump that I anticipated it would take. Now, he was really good as a sophomore because he was really good as a freshman. I don't know that I saw some market improvement from year 1 to year 2. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish the conference season due to injury. But he was Big Ten Freshman of the Year last year for a reason. Obviously, you'd be a fool to say you don't want him back. I don't know that you get him back. And if you don't get him back, you're probably not getting Brock Harding back. Peyton Sanford's gone anyways. Bronze is gone anyways. Mulvey is likely gone regardless. I think even if Fran somehow came back, I think Mulvey moves on. Again, speculation. I've not talked to these individuals specifically. I've not called Riley Mulvey and said, "Hey, are you going to move on if Fran stays?" But that's my guess. And then you're starting to look down the list like Carter Kingsbury. I don't even know. Does he have another year left? I suppose he does. I don't know that you want to take up a roster spot with Carter. And that's some of this sounds cruel. I'm just giving my thoughts on building a successful program from scratch. And I don't know that those guys are building pieces. Laji Dembele, I don't know. Like I say, with Traore's athleticism, I'd love to have a starting point of Dix and Traore and have those guys in the recruiting trail with me as a new head coach here. But this is really the first time I've ever talked about this openly because I've not really been ready to have these conversations. But now at this point where it looks like they're not even going to make the Big Ten tournament, I'm not saying I'm done, but I'm as close to done as I'm going to get hosting this show. All right, let's go back to our call line. Dom is with us. Dom, I know how you feel.
Cory, can you hear me?
I got
Am I getting this right? Okay, so I had a few things written down. First off, I wanted to ask, where's Tony? I haven't seen Tony in a while.
Tony made a move to Des Moines, and so he doesn't have his camera and all computer and all that set up. He's called in by the phone a couple of times, but he's still alive.
Okay, well, I hadn't heard from him the last couple games, and I was feeling like it's like getting to that point where I should be hearing from him or getting his perspective. But
yeah, maybe he's a little frustrated, too frustrated to call in. I don't know. He's another guy who's as big of a Hawk men's basketball fan as you're going to find. He loves Fran.
Right. Yeah, that's why I was real curious to see where his attitude was at this point, because some of the other frequent callers, it's clear that the attitude has just plummeted to the lowest point I've seen, because most of the callers are way more optimistic, and it's a sad affair. But I did have a couple of points, and I did want to get on the call because I knew you said you didn't want to be up all night, so I'll shoot you some money on PayPal. I owe you for this one, and I didn't want to keep you up, so hopped in as soon as I could. But I also think Fran has not made any effort towards the fans. So I'm just going to highlight a few things I've heard from other callers, and even over the years, I haven't seen any effort. I mean, there's been calls for moving students closer to the court. I don't think anything's been done in that regard. As far as like finding ways to get the students to the games, I think there's been no effort in that regard either. Like, I think he's kind of glazed over some of that stuff.
Some of so just the seating thing, some of that is out of his control. I mean, I remember having Fran on 2 years ago, and Fran said on this very show, he said, yeah, we'd like to get the students moved. We're working on that. So some of that was Gary Brada dropping the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just takes time under Beth Getz. They've talked about, but yeah, I agree. I agree to an extent, I guess is what I'd say, because I think there are other ways that you can make effort, even if the process of moving the students and changing the logistics of Carver is a slow, methodical one. I don't know that I've seen the other efforts that you just outlined from Fran. I agree with you to an extent.
Yeah, I guess I should have worded that a little better, because I also wondered how much of that he could make an impact on, not necessarily trying to blame him. So I'm kind of with you in that regard. I also... coming off your last call, I saw Darrell also say this, and probably others. I can't see the chat. I'm figure this out, but I wouldn't keep anybody. I would hard reset this program. It has reached its lowest point in my adult life now.
You're telling me you would not take Josh Dix back?
No, I wouldn't. He's regressing. He's regressing as we speak. He had a terrible night tonight. He was horrible in the last game, and I don't see why you would keep anybody. I mean, if you want to offer the option, fine, but I wouldn't retain anybody. I would completely say we're overhauling the entire roster.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. This is my only response. I understand where you're coming from, Dom, and you're frustrated, but I think every coach we just named, and I can't imagine a coach that would come in and not want Josh Dix. That's all I'm saying.
And I don't disagree with you, but I wouldn't keep anybody. I would let the new coach decide if the new coach wants to keep him.
Oh, he'll want him. He'll want him. It's going to be the new coach that makes those decisions, Dom. I mean, it's not like Beth is going to.
I'm not sold on it.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah, I'm not sold. There's anybody I'd keep on the Iowa basketball team. I'm not sold on anybody. They're all regressing, and if the new coach comes in, I want an entirely new team. I don't want any resemblance of what Iowa's been running under Fran the last 15, 20 years, whatever it's been. They need an entirely new system implemented. And to me, I would just go completely clean slate. Take the down year in hopes of the next year being the up year. It's what Iowa State did. It's what other programs have done. That's the route. That's where I'm at. The apathy is to the point where I would just want an entirely new regime. And there are kids on the team that are good and are very likable, respectable young men. But if we're getting a new regime after as long as Fran's been here, clean it all out. I wouldn't retain any staff. And I mean, frankly, I'd rather see an entirely new team with completely different players. Just my opinion.
Look, I just want to make something very clear because I'm looking at the stats. Before tonight, these were Josh Dix's 7 previous performances. 27 points, 13 points, 26 points, 5 points, 19 points, 15 points, 11 points. So in general, he has been one of the few bright spots. And he had games in there 7 of
That's
8 from the
shooting.
field, 9 of 11 from
No.
the field, 6 of 9 from the field, 4 of 8, 3 of 7. He has not had performances like what we saw tonight in some time. These have been few and
The
far
last
between.
game?
A lot of defensive attention, too. Let's
And the
keep
last
that.
game? How was he the last game?
He was 5 of 12.
Well, I mean, I'll stand corrected on this. I'm not trying to sound like I'm in a right or wrong position here. I'm just saying I would clean everything out. I don't see anything. I mean, I would just get an all new, clean the whole slate, just an entirely new lineup. I mean, and I'm asking this to you. I'm asking this question. Does Dix, admittedly, I've not followed every game as closely as I'd like to because the team has been a hard watch. Has Dix been good on defense? Tonight didn't look like it.
He's not. Listen, he is one of their better defenders. Is he a good defender on a national scale? I wouldn't go that far, but I do think he's got the tools to be a good defender. And I think that's what we have to realize too. And I bring this up all the time because of my relationship with Gary Close, but Wisconsin's a great example under Bo Ryan. They were able to coach just about everybody to be able to play defense, even guys who were not good athletes. And can you imagine what Ben Brust would have been had he ended up at Iowa, right? He was going to be at Iowa and then he ends up going to Wisconsin, like not a very athletic kid at all.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody on those Wisconsin teams defended. So, I know they kind of went one end of the spectrum to another end of the spectrum in the transition from Licklider to Fran, and I hope they don't go to that extreme again. But I do think whoever they bring in is going to have to teach defense and is going to be known for willingness to defend. And, excuse me, since somebody said post-game in the live chat that Chris Collins was quoted as saying you have to play defense in this league, that's a pretty big but he's right. He's right. He's an example of somebody that understands that, and that he'd be on my short list.
Yeah, and that was the next point right down my list was what Chris Collins said after the game, and you just hit the nail on the head with that. So I totally am with you there, and that's why I asked, because like the defense is so bad. It's so bad. The effort is embarrassing. It's an atrocity. The effort. It's a joke. And for that alone, I would want an entirely new roster.
Now, Dom, I think there are times when the effort is okay, but it's more so they don't execute on the defensive end. So, like, you can try really hard, but if you just don't understand the fundamentals and don't practice them enough, you're going to look like you're not it's going to look like you're not defending with effort. And Coach Close has talked about that. So I'm not saying you're wrong to some extent, but I just think I think there's more to it than just effort. You got to be able to teach this, and it's got to be something that's practiced and worked on over and over and over again, and you're given devoted time to on a regular practice-to-practice basis. And I don't see evidence of that, and I think that's been well documented that Fran has never committed himself to that side of the floor.
Yep. I don't disagree. At all. I know. So the other couple bullet points I had left here were more coaching related. So I guess this comes off the effort. You guys said that there was some rumor of like a medical reason that Fran doesn't show emotion on the sideline, and I just think that's BS. I do. I think that's BS. If you have a medical problem, you step aside. Other coaches step aside. If they medically can't do their job to the fullest extent at the Big Ten level, you step aside. So I don't get on board with that. And if his attitude is like this because he wants out, my question is, what's the Butler job status? Is Thad Matta the coach there? And what's the status there? Does he want out? Is he going to be fired? Is there any?
I'm not aware. I don't know why. I can't imagine Fran as a candidate for any high profile college.
You don't think he could have any other landing spot after Iowa?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying high profile,
okay.
Big East, Big Ten, ACC. I can't imagine at this point in his career and where his last couple of teams have And no, I don't. I mean, maybe he
Okay.
takes a job somewhere else, but I think if he leaves, this is probably his last job.
Because someone brought it up in the chat. Like, is his demeanor, like, is his effort, does it just scream of like wanting to force someone's hand? Like, okay, if you're gonna, get rid of me, like, I don't know. Like, does it feel like he's burning a bridge?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, there's theories on there. I don't know what it is because I'm not privy to the situation and I don't have a relationship with Frank. I'm just telling you what rumors have been out there and theories have been out there, and I just think it all, like I say, whatever it is, it all ends up to the same place. And I think that is we're going to probably know in a month that he's no longer the head coach at Iowa. I think that's where we're at. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I've been wrong before. I think that's where we're heading, though.
No, I hear you. I've been wrong as well. That's why I don't want to come off as too pompous or anything like that. So I apologize if I do. I guess that leads into my last question. For candidates of a future head coach, I know a few have been thrown around. I don't see Matt Gaines. No shot it's Matt Gaines. There's zero shot that he gets the job. No chance whatsoever to that.
I don't think he's a legitimate candidate. No.
And for BJ Armstrong, he's kind of a dark horse, I would say. It would be an exciting hire. There's no experience there. And based on Iowa's track record with hires, even Licklider was National Coach of the Year when they hired him out of Butler. So he was pretty high profile and a lot of programs wanted him. And same with Fran. I mean, his track record was also very good and a lot of people wanted him. Unless Beth, and again, speculation, unless Beth wants to view the hiring process differently, like BJ just doesn't strike me as the kind of hire that Iowa would be comfortable doing at this level. I would see it more realistically. And again, my knowledge outside of the state of Iowa basketball isn't very good. So I don't know who those candidates would be that they'd look east, west, north, and south for. But I still think McCollum is like the safest, best hire to go get. DeVries feels like a pipe dream. It just feels too expensive, but I could be swayed otherwise on that. It feels expensive. And is the West Virginia gig getting more comfy for him? Because, I mean, he's got a handful of huge wins in just his first year there. So it makes me wonder, does he think there's momentum building at West Virginia to give that up to go to Iowa? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Again, there's a lot of theories out there and rumors that, that's the one job he'd leave West Virginia for right now. I think it's odd that he would jump from Drake to West Virginia. But if it's his dream job because of the DeVries family connection, I mean, maybe he would. Again, I'd be calling all three of those guys. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people that I don't have on my radar, whether it's the guy at Drake or, I know Doug always brings up in the chat all these mid-major guys that are having successful years. I mean, that's usually, I think of a guy like TJ Otzelberger. I know he was on the Fred Hoiberg staff, and Fred Hoiberg is another one, didn't have experience before coming to Iowa State. Times have changed a little bit since then, Dom, but I'd say he was a success at Iowa State. I know he's struggling in Nebraska now, but Otzelberger's a guy who, was coaching a mid-major, came back to Iowa State, and has been obviously unbelievable. Iowa State's dipping a little bit right now, but so many different places you can go, and I think it's an exciting time. I don't dread this. I know there's some people that look at this.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
Like they do with Iowa football. Well, you make a change and they're going to end up like Nebraska. Well,
what? Yeah, I totally understand. My biggest gripe with Fran McCaffrey is when he had his sons on the team, he had the opportunity that whole time to put both of them on scholarship, or excuse me, not put them on scholarship, but have both of them on the team and not be on scholarship. And he could have used both of those scholarships to go get more talent. Another coach who did this was McDermott. Greg McDermott did this. Doug McDermott's senior year at Creighton, Doug waived his scholarship so that they could bring in another guard, and Creighton went to the Elite Eight that year. And Fran had multiple times he could have done that, and he just didn't do it. And his sons, in my opinion, didn't really pan out. I could go on and on about why I think that last year with Patrick was a train wreck, but that's hindsight at this point.
Well, Don, we appreciate you calling in. We'll talk about that another day.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate your show and everything, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dom. Folks, like and subscribe. Hit that like button if you're here. And, of course, if you're not familiar with the show, we usually have Coach Gary Close on with us. He was not available this evening. But we have so much coverage around the clock here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, including postgame coverage with Coach Close for men's basketball, Coach Don Patterson for football, and former Hawkeye great Kasheen Alexander for women's basketball. If you're interested in sponsorship and telling Hawkeye Nation about your brand, your company, email me. info@fromthehawkeyeofthestorm.com. Very simple. info@fromthehawkeyeofthestorm.com. The email is on your screen. And you can also follow me over on social media. I'm at From the Hawkeye on X and Instagram, From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. Give me a follow. Give these social media accounts a follow. Even if you're not real active on those platforms, it does help the show to grow. All right, folks, our RTI Threads player of the game, Drew Thelwell, 14 points, 5 of 7. The Moorhead State transfer was a perfect 4 of 4 from three-point range, coming off an ankle injury, 3 assists. You could argue Iowa's 2-point guards were their best players tonight. Brock Harding was not very good as far as scoring the basketball. He was 2 of 7, but he did have 7 assists to 1 turnover against the Wildcats, and it was not enough. But, boy, Drew Thelwell is going to be missed next year, I'll tell you that. And wish they could have gotten him for more than a year. You feel bad for Drew because he loves it at Iowa, but these are difficult times, and then the injury does not help either. Folks, if you're interested in sponsoring the show like RTI Threads is, you know how to do that. But in the meantime, support RTI Threads, support our many brands, RTI Threads being one of them. Visit the website, rtithreads.com/NIL. You can customize your Peyton Sanford, Josh Dix, Owen Freeman apparel, and much, much more. Iowa baseball season underway as well. You can check out the Iowa baseball merch, the Swarm and RTI partner information over at rtithreads.com/NIL. You can read all about it and customize your Iowa baseball gear right there. rtithreads.com/NIL. Let's go to our next caller who has been on hold for a long time. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Well, this would be Chris from Wyoming.
Hey, Chris.
First, I want to say Nick Snay on Bruce Pearl. He caused too many problems with Illinois when before he left.
Okay.
So no. But what I don't hear anyone talking about with Fran and the situation, I think the last 2 years he hasn't really been present. That's just my interpretation. But I think people are forgetting about the accident that Jack was in.
Yep.
And that just got through the courts recently, and I don't think he's been sentenced yet. But I think that if that's been hanging over this family's head for 2 or 3 years now, and Jack decides, he announces he's not going to Iowa, Patrick leaves Iowa, I think that the pressure of that situation and just the tragedy and the stress of it all could be an explanation.
Could be
for Fran's demeanor, and especially if he has no affect on the court. I'm just saying I have a background working in as a therapist in psych, but I think he could be on anxiety meds or something that could be blunting his affect. So I'm not saying that this is an excuse. We should feel sorry for him, but it is an explanation. And I do believe, I think he'll be gone. I think he wants to get out of here as well, probably as much as Patrick and Jack wanted to get out of here.
I think that's as thoughtful of a comment as we've had on the show yet, Chris. I think those are, again, probably nobody but the people in the closed circle of the McCaffrey family knows exactly what's going on here. But
right.
I'm not dismissing any of those. There's been a lot has happened, and a lot is happening at very we talk about the struggles for Patrick with mental health. You talk about the Jack McCaffrey situation. Right. You talk about Fran's age. You talk about Fran and kind of the buildup that he had with Gary Brada before Gary left. Remember, Fran had to be put in his place a couple of times for flying off the handle. And then you pair that with the fact that, Jack is going to Butler. He's got his other two sons at Butler already. I believe his daughter is finishing up her schooling at Iowa. Yeah, there's just a lot going on at the same time. And, of course, not winning, whether that's the chicken or the egg thing, right? Are they not winning partly because of all those other struggles? Or is that just, is it just contributing to the problems that already exist? I don't know, but those are good theories.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there because the stress of it all would really get to you. And then, of course, the profession of coaching, that's highly stressful. And I just thought, to me, that's a plausible explanation for his demeanor and his affect. And he seems to have lost the killer instinct. You know what I mean? So it was lackluster year. And, for him, he got his 200th win. That could have been another reason to stay, hang in there. But I think he's going to walk.
Yep.
I think he's done. So that's just my opinion.
I agree, Chris. And I don't think I've ever heard you call in for a men's show. So congratulations. Thanks for being here.
I haven't. I'm intimidated by men's shows. So I probably will never call again.
Well, I think people liked your call. So thanks for waiting on hold for so long. We'll talk to you Sunday after the women's game.
Yes. Yes, most likely.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. Good stuff from Chris. All things that, whether you want to admit it or not, are fair comments, questions. I don't know that we'll ever know the answer to some of those, but certainly possible. So the Nomad Geofencer in the chat has a different perspective. He says, I think Fran will be back next season on the hottest seat ever. It's a very dark season, but not so sure it is as bad as it seems long term. It's easy to lose perspective. The top 30 class coming in next season with portal opportunities. Well, everybody has portal opportunities. Let me just say that. Every year you portal opportunities. Nomad Geofencer says Fran is a really good coach. This 1 year does not define him well. Let's remember it's not just 1 year. They missed the tournament last year. He stabilized the program similar to what Kirk Ferentz did. Well, again, this isn't 1999 anymore, just like it's not 2010 anymore. Hayden Fry stabilized the program in 1979. But what have you done for me lately? Fans are fickle, he says. Momentum changes quickly with a few wins. It's going to take more than a few wins. Now, if they win these next two games and somehow make the Big Ten tournament and make a run of the Big Ten tournament, yeah, I could see it's not going to change the entire fan base, but boy, it'd be an interesting story, but that's not going to happen. How about this? REM Properties. I would love AJ Guyton. See, AJ Guyton, so he's coaching. He's the AD, right? He's the AD at one of the Peoria districts, but I know he's coached. But again, I mean, he's not an Iowa guy. His daughter's playing basketball at Iowa, but yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting one. He's a great Big Ten player, right? Legendary Big Ten player. It's interesting thought at the very least. All right, let's go back to our phone line. We have got Tom with us. Tom, welcome to the show.
Cory.
Hey.
Where's Tony and James tonight? They check out?
Tony is probably crying about this whole situation, and James is probably coaching.
Cory, since 8 o'clock, I've been looking forward to the post-game show the whole time.
Can't wait. It's the highlight of my week.
Yeah, I can't wait. Hey,
I love talking about
Doug said to be positive.
Yeah.
Doug said to be positive. Okay?
Yeah, I told myself I was positive I wasn't going longer than 45 minutes. We're an hour and 15 in.
I'm positive. I probably watched more Iowa basketball this year than I have the last 2 years.
Well, your quality of life must not be very good.
After we got to the middle of January, you can stream all them games for free because nobody cares.
Well, that's not necessarily
Fox
the reason.
Sports FS1 was free tonight. You know, you could watch the ball game. It's been good.
Yep. Yeah.
My other positive, Corey,
Okay.
you have 2 more shows.
Yes. I have 2 more men's
Just
shows.
2 more.
Will we get Gary for one of those? Will we get Gary? We're going to get Gary for one of those shows.
Yeah.
Gary has not totally checked out.
He doesn't need to come for 2. He just needs to come for the last one, probably.
I think it's a very difficult. Let me just say, I think it's a very. He's not said this to me. I think it's a very difficult position for Coach Close to be in. Just like it was a difficult position for Coach Patterson to be in with Kirk and the Bryan situation. Gary did not work for Fran, but his son was a manager on the Iowa staff for several years. I think it's a difficult position because I do think Coach Close has respect for Fran and for, a number of reasons. So I feel for Gary, but he also is a no-nonsense guy like Coach Patterson is.
Well, Cory, it's just like, I'm not going to chime in and hack on this basketball team. Okay?
Okay.
You know, they've got players that are hurt. They weren't very good to start with. They played Oregon better than I ever dreamed.
Okay.
This game they were never in, right? And
not really.
You know, so
really.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not here to.
This is kind of what this team does now, Tom. They fall behind early and they never catch up.
Right.
I mean, they just, you get down by 6 to 8 points in the first half, of the first half, and then it's just basically they don't get blown out. Well, like they do get blown out, but tonight they didn't really get. They just kind of stick around, but they can never get enough stops and scores to translate to a comeback. So I just
right.
All the games kind of look the same now. This was a lower scoring game, but they all kind of look the same as far as how they transpire. So,
I mean, Northwestern's not that much more talented than the Hawk team, tonight. Like I say, they played Oregon a hell of a lot better than I thought they would. That game really surprised me. Granted, it was at home, but so anyway, those were the positives I took out.
Now are you gonna yell fire Fran at your?
I've got my list here, Cory.
Okay.
And when I look at as far as coaching performance or whatever, right? And you compare it to football, Fran still filled the stadium, right? You can complain about him all you want, still fills the stadium.
You mean Kirk?
Or Kirk Ferentz.
And by the way, respond to Michael real quick. Cooper Koch is hurt, so he's done for the year. Yeah. Go ahead.
In my operation,
he'll have 4 years left, by the way. So he'd be another guy. I guess he's kind of forgotten, man. He's a good prospect. He'd be another guy that I'd like to retain.
So in my operation, if I had back-to-back years like Fran did, is going to have in my operation, they would tell me I need to do something different. They might not fire me, but something's got to change.
Don't you lay manure out and don't you lay manure? Okay.
Dude, I've been on the rocks a couple times. I've been taken into the big CEO, and they've told me that things have got to change. I've been to them meetings with Beth Getz.
Okay.
And they tell you things have got to change. And so you got to be willing to change. I'm still here, The other thing is the caller that wanted to just get rid of everybody. Yep. If there was a new coach to come in here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a new coach, you can't reload 15 players, right?
No, maybe not 15, but they can. That's some institutions have to do close to that. It's amazing.
Yeah,
but
you bring in 5 or 6.
Yeah, they're not going to lose everybody, but they're good. If Fran is gone, and I think he is, they'll have to replace at least 7 or 8 guys. Is my guess.
Right.
At least.
And you hope to keep Dix and Freeman if you're a new coach coming in. You hope.
Well, Dom doesn't hope that. I would hope that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would like
But-
I would like to say add Koch to the list. I'd like to see Cooper Koch back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Koch is all right. I mean, as
We just
far
haven't
as an
seen
Iowa
much.
fan
we
goes.
just haven't seen much of him. But he's a good prospect.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to struggle to defend, but he's got enough length, and I think if he's coached right, he probably can defend just fine.
So, Cory, I'm going to get off here, and I'm going to tell you I'm looking forward to the last two games. I'm not going to tell you who I'm rooting
We'll be
for.
here, and we'll have women's postgame Sunday.
Yep, I'm hoping for a couple men's game surprises. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Would it be amazing?
Two
We didn't
games to get in
tonight,
the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, let's get to that Big Ten tournament.
Yeah,
Let's
not
compete
counting on it.
All right, Tom. Thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
let's just get in the Big Ten tournament.
Say hi
Yep.
to the wife. Tell her thanks for listening.
You bet.
Thanks, Tom. All right. Any word on Cooper's injury? There's word on the street, but nothing that I feel comfortable repeating, and you can probably find it on message boards somewhere. I'm not on message boards, but I'm sure it's out there. If I hear it from other places, I'm sure it's out there, but nothing that I feel comfortable repeating. It's not been out in the open, I guess, is what I'll say. All right, folks, we've got a couple more callers to get to before we end the show today. But one last reminder to be sure you check out RTI Threads. I was actually scrolling through this website earlier, and I kind of forgot about the Aaron Graves and Jacob Gill and Zach Lutmer gear. When you're not in football mode, you kind of forget about some of these great logos, these great products that have been designed specifically for the Hawkeye athletes. And again, you can maybe even Carson Shire. Again, customize your gear, get your authentic player gear, and look at these different logos, custom golf balls, T-shirts, hoodies, stocking caps, even infant gear. How about that? Especially if you're a Western Iowa person. So many great athletes coming out of Western Iowa, not just Zach Lutmer, Cooper DeJean, certainly Carson Shire, and so many more guys. Josh Dick's a great Western Iowa example. And you can still support these guys. And, obviously NIL is part of player retention. So if you're somebody who's like, hey, I'd love to see Josh Dick's back next year, can't guarantee anything, but NIL is often a factor, especially when guys are contemplating the transfer portal. Check it all out, rtithreads.com, and click on NIL athletes to shop the NIL division of RTI Threads. All right, we'll go to our phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Cory, this is John.
Hey, John.
They were talking earlier in the show about Fran's buyout being $4 to $6 million or $7 million. According to Scott Dockerman, it is $4.2 million, and they can spread that out over a 4-year period.
Well, there you go. I don't know why that wouldn't be doable, but I'm certainly not a financial strategist for Iowa, but sort of sounds like chump change nowadays, but maybe it's not. I don't know. You've also got this new revenue sharing with student athletes. So I don't know how that impacts financials and whatnot. I have no idea, but that does not seem like an undoable number.
No. It seems like Fran's buyout would be a lot easier if you could spread it out over a 4-year period versus having to come up with $4 million to buy him out and then to buy whoever coach you hire out of his contracts,
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if that was built into his contract specifically, if that's something that's normal, that typical. I don't know if that's something for a coach that's in his 60s. I have no clue. But I had read that same thing, that I had read 3 years, that it was over a 3-year. But regardless, 3 or 4 years, that should help the cause, I would think.
You were talking about nobody's going to the Michigan State game. I thought about going to it, and if you look on the Hawkeye website and go under men's game single tickets Michigan, 90% of the arena is sold out.
I don't know what that means.
It means only the end in the arena, the end of it is the only thing that's not sold.
Well, this is going to
The rest
sound really
of
bad.
the arena is sold out.
This is going to sound really bad. This is going to sound really bad, John, but why on earth, if the people haven't been going all year, why would people all of a sudden show up for a Thursday night game against Michigan State? Is that because it's senior day? Is that why? Senior night?
I was thinking that's the only reason I could see. Yeah.
I'm not discouraging people from going, but I don't know what the drive would be unless people just, there's that many people that want to see Peyton Sanford out. And now I'm looking at the website here, John, and what did you say? You thought 80% was taken? What did you say for your estimate?
I said 90%. According to the university website, just the end of the arena, backside of the basket was the only thing that I seen. It shocked me. I figured there'd be all kinds of tickets.
I'm going to share this. I know you're let me find this here. Make sure that I don't have the wrong. Yeah, let me share this on the screen. I know you're on the phone, but just for people, so people can kind of see what John's talking about. This is what I'm seeing, John. Okay, so this is the Iowa website. Let me go over to tickets. This is what I'm seeing available for Iowa, Michigan State next Thursday night. And I'm seeing quite a few, especially high sides, corners. So, well, I got too far out there. Zoom out. Not that close. There we go. So there's a lot of seats in there. I'd say it's maybe 70% sold. Maybe, John. I don't even know that it's 70. It's probably 70%. Go back and check that again. There's a lot of seats I'm seeing a lot of seats open in M, in L, tons of seats open in whatever these sections are. It's more than just the ends. But the other thing about it here, John, is if you may have sold a lot of these tickets early in the year. I don't know. But I'm guessing a lot of these are showing up on the secondary markets, and a lot of them will probably end up empty, even if they were sold through the university initially. That's my guess.
That very well could be. The last thing is, for me, Chris Collins is a no.
Okay, why?
Because he's a sideways coaching hire. He's not any better. His record's not any better than what we have.
He's younger. He's got more of a recruiting disadvantage at Northwestern than Fran does at Iowa, I think. Maybe that's not true. I could see why you'd say that. But boy, I'll tell you what, he's done one stellar job through a lot of injury problems this year. I mean, they've got, what did they say, 5 quad 1 wins? Iowa's got 0. And they've dealt with, I think, more significant injuries than Iowa has, frankly. Now, they still have Nick Martinelli. He's really good, obviously. Didn't play great tonight, but I could see why you say that. I think he'd be on my short list. I don't know that he'd be number 1. I don't know who would number 1 be. I'd have to give that some thought. As we get closer to that time when those decisions announcements are going to be made, I probably will form stronger opinions on it. But I think he'd be in my top 3 at a minimum.
BJ Armstrong, my concern with him is he'd end up not being a butthead like Howard at Michigan, but just with no coaching experience. I'm not so sure about him. Yep. I mean, I remember him, and he'd be worth a call, yep. But I'm not sure he'd be our answer.
You know what, John? I am totally fine with that response to BJ Armstrong. And if you're somebody who says, I'm not sure, I think you're being logical. I think you're being fair. Anybody that says, oh, yeah, I know he'd be a great coach. I don't know. How can you say that? But if you're somebody who's a risk taker and you're willing to play that out and you think it's exciting, and I'm the kind of guy, like, it's sort of like when Colorado brought in Deion Sanders. Like, I'm not a Deion guy, but I thought that was a risky hire when it happened. I'd say he's been a success there. I know people don't like him. I'm not a big fan of him, but that was such an odd fit to Boulder. Now, BJ's an Iowa guy, so he played here. Obviously, he's really good NBA reputation, played with MJ and with the Bulls. Everybody knows his pro acumen. But I think it's worth, I would be fine with testing that out. And if it doesn't work, if he's here a couple of years and it's going nowhere, then you move on. Some fans would want the safer hire, and I get that. So I'm totally fine with either opinion on that.
Can I ask you? I've been dying to ask for a long time.
Okay.
Do you think Kirk Ferentz is happy with the offense where Tim Lester has it, or do you think he wishes he still had Brian?
I don't know if he wishes he still had Brian. I mean, I'm sure he wishes that Brian was never forced out. It's his son. I mean, I don't know. He hired Tim Lester. I would hope he's okay with Tim. The offense was better under Tim than it was under Brian. But blood's thicker than water.
All right, sir. That's all I got. Thanks, you,
John. Appreciate it. Always appreciate the calls. Good stuff. All right. I've been on the show way too long. Let's go to our final caller. Drill MVP is here.
Hey, Cory. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's good to see you.
It's good.
I see the logo in the middle of the screen.
How about it's good to talk to you? How about that?
Good to talk to you, sir.
Well, Cory, let me provide a different spin than what everybody else is saying tonight. A more optimistic spin, because I know you all are kind of down and out. This may be the best realistic result that could happen for Iowa tonight, because it leaves no doubt about the future of the direction of the program. Because I think the worst result for Iowa basketball going forward is you win this game, you get crushed by Michigan State, you win the final game of the season against Nebraska, you barely make the Big Ten tournament, you upset a team, and then Fran is, well, he should be fired, but, he didn't do enough to get fired, so we're going to give him another year where fans really don't believe in him. Nobody really believes in him, but he's earned that obligation. I think that would have been the worst result this year. What you've done now is Beth has basically been forced to fire him. And that's good, because there's no doubt the overall health of the program long term, I'm talking 2, 3, 4 years down the road, is going to improve by firing this guy, because over the last 5 seasons he's had either worse results or equal results from the previous year. So 5 years ago he made the second round, then he went to the first round, then the first round, then missed the tournament, and now he's going to miss the Big Ten tournament. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about that earlier today. I'm like, Hawkeye fans went from NCAA tournament every year to we're just grasping at straws for any hope of making the big dance last year. They don't. Then now we're grasping for any chance to make the Big Ten tournament. Never in my life did I think. Now, of course, I didn't know conference expansion was going to hit like it did, but never in my life did I think Iowa would be clamoring to make the Big Ten tournament.
Right. I remember
talking about missing out on the NCAA tournament. We're talking about missing out on the Big Ten tournament. That's incredible to me.
I remember you had a show and Tony was on, and you're like, well, 3 teams are going to miss, and you're like just flippantly say, oh yeah, they'll probably be 3 West Coast teams. Iowa, I mean, if they're even resemblance to what they're doing, they got no need to worry about that. And like Tony was talking about before the season start, well, Fox Sports has got this crown tournament. So if Iowa doesn't make the tournament, they've got this new crown tournament that they'll be in. It's like Iowa's not only going to not miss, they're not going to be able to go to like any tournament other than maybe the CBI, because I know they just take throwaway teams, but they might not even be good for them.
Teams don't go to the CBI, do they?
I have no idea. I've never watched a CBI game in my life. I just know that they're horrendous teams that go there.
Isn't there also a CIT?
I have no idea.
There used to be a CIT tournament, but anyways, yeah, they're not going anywhere. If Iowa makes here's an interesting question, Darrell. If Iowa wins the next 2, and they end up 8-12, that might be enough to get them to that NIT game or whatever that is tournament.
No, the Crown takes the top 2 teams from each automatically, and then I don't know, they use some select committee to select it. So they're not going to be the top 2.
I could see them getting selected as an at-large, however that process works with the new setup.
Yeah, I have no idea, but Iowa shouldn't be in any tournament because watching the game against Northwestern, it looked like the only player giving effort was number 0. Everybody else just felt like they weren't even really trying, and I think that Oregon game psychologically broke Iowa, especially based on the reaction of them losing that game and how devastated they were. I think the entire time they were gaslighting themselves and saying, we still got a shot to make the tournament. We still got a shot to make the tournament. We still got a shot to make the tournament. And then when you lose to Oregon, you've got 10 losses in the Big Ten. It's like, well, we're done. And they've just completely packed it in. Like, I'm sorry, this Northwestern team, watching them play today, they're not a good basketball team. They're not athletic. They're not a talented team. But at least, you know what they do? They try. And they somewhat believe in the system they're running.
When healthy, they're fairly talented. They've got 2 really good scorers, Barnheiser and Martinelli. Martinelli is the leading scorer in the conference, but they have. I mean, this is still one of the bottom third of the Big Ten without those guys, and they won decisively, start to finish. So
right now, Iowa never had a lead in this game.
Yeah, yep,
that's unacceptable. I mean. Seriously,
it's accepted. We've accepted it.
Well, you shouldn't. I mean, Iowa doesn't now control their own destiny to make the Big Ten tournament.
What other choice do we have but accept it, Darrell? I mean, you know.
Well, the worst thing that can happen in a fan base is apathy. So I would
that set in a long time ago with a lot.
Well, that's a very bad emotion. You need a coach that I think is energetic and defensive oriented. I don't know who that guy is, but I think that's the 2 main qualities you need for an Iowa coach. Now, would Iowa be willing to take somebody with baggage like a Will Wade or Chris Beard?
No. Those guys are not Iowa guys. No way. Chris Beard, Will Wade, those guys are no way. Will Wade, no way. Chris Beard, no way. No way. Are those guys even? Where are those guys coaching now? Where's Will Wade?
I think LSU was the last place. I don't know if he's still there, but
I thought he was somewhere else. I thought he was like McNeese State.
Chris Beard, I think, sold Miss.
Let's see, Will Wade is currently at McNeese State. Yeah.
Oh, McNeese. Okay. Right. Well, they got a good program in McNeese State. They do.
Listen, no, he's not an Iowa. No, I'm telling you, he's not getting hired at Iowa.
I understand. My point, though, is Iowa needs a radical change. They need a radical transformation.
They don't need that radical change.
Okay. So, I'm just saying, you got to throw like.
I said earlier, hey, you're not tapped into the Iowa fan base or the Iowa history, but VJ Armstrong was an exciting name. Now, there'd be question marks because he hasn't coached at this level, but that would be an exciting name. This fan base would rally behind that name.
Well, that's important. You need somebody that the fans can believe in, because what you need to have happen is you need your home court to be a home court advantage. And you need to instill in the players that they have the confidence of the fan base, because I'm sure it's crushing to the players when they walk out there and there's only 2 people in the stands. Because
yeah, it probably doesn't feel very good. So they get one more of those on Thursday. Darrell, you gonna
let me ask you this. What's the percentage of Michigan State versus Iowa fans?
I don't know how many Michigan State fans are traveling down.
It doesn't have to be a lot, though, Cory. If it's as bad as you all are making it out to be, it doesn't have to be that many.
Yeah, Michigan State's a dangerous team heading into March. We talked about them a little bit earlier. So yeah, it'll be mostly a 2, but it'll be at least half empty.
Yeah,
it'll be close. Well, actually, senior day, maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 70% full when all is said and done, but no more than that on a Thursday night at this point.
That's fair, but I guess you're not going to have your bracket show that you normally have. Are you just going to have, instead of that, you're just going to have a reset show?
Well, no, we'll do a women's show.
Okay, get Charlie Cream on here and have him discuss the women's bracket.
There we go.
With Iowa.
Maybe I'll do that.
I tell you what, Iowa and the women's team, I really like what I see. I mean, they competed with UCLA. They beat USC. I told this to your guy, Kyle. I think it took about halfway through the season for them to finally gel with the new head coach. I think she was trying to figure things out, and then it just clicked, and Iowa's taken off. They're a dangerous team. If they're, I don't know their seeding, but if they're a 6 seed, I can see them upsetting a 3 and making the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're going to get locked into that 7 spot. We'll see.
Ooh, that's tough.
Yep. But no, I agree with you. And here's my assignment to you, Darrell. I'm going to let you go now, but here's my assignment to you. You get me in touch with Cream. I don't know how to contact
do that.
You get him in.
He's got a Twitter account.
All right. Tweet the living daylights out of that guy. Would you do that for me?
I mean, I'll see if he's got his DMs open. How about that?
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Darrell. It's always a pleasure catching up.
Yeah, thank you, Cory, for having me on. I'm hopefully I can sparse up this funeral vibe you've all been having over the last month.
Thanks.
I mean, you're down. Kyle Spence. Thoughts and prayers are with that man. I was on consoling him yesterday. He was just, you could tell the anger that was coming out of him. Like he was trying to hide it in his emotions, but you could just tell he was so upset with the direction of this his coach and players, team and staff. He just wanted to burn it all down, and I can't blame him.
I'm glad I missed it. Yeah. Thanks, Darrell. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Good call. Always enjoy hearing from Darrell MVP. Folks, it's been real. Almost 2 hours of showtime this evening. So, again, if you're interested in supporting the show, support our sponsors, donate if you're so willing. Donate by Super Chat, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. So many different ways. And, of course, sponsorship as well. info@fromthehawkeyeofthestorm.com. Like, folks, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. I will be back with you live with Kasheen Alexander Sunday following the Hawkeye women and the Wisconsin Badgers. 3 p.m. Central Time tip on Peacock. We'll be live around 5. We'll talk to you then.